Welcome to Browns headquarters in Berea. I'm Matt Florjancic. He's Pat Chiesa. And the first full pads practice of Browns training camp is officially in the books. They wrapped up a little bit ago on the field, and there were some good moments for both sides of the ball. I thought it was a pretty even practice that way, Pat.
It feels like the first half, Maddie, the defense kind of won the day, but then the last portion, I don't even want to say the second half, but the last probably quarter of the practice, especially when they did the minute 25-second drill, first team offense took them just 3 plays to score. That was pretty electric. Baker Mayfield to Odell Beckham Jr., then hits Jarvis Landry on back-to-back completions, including a 23-yard touchdown. So the offense ending the day on a good note, but we saw some good stuff from the linebacking core and from the defensive line throughout most of the day. They did an inside run drill, thought the defense looked really good.
Absolutely.
And hey, we know what kind of pieces are on this offense. The defense, a lot of holes to fill, a lot of new guys coming in, so good to see them have a good day on this Saturday first padded practice.
Yeah, I thought the defensive line and the linebackers specifically in those drills had a very good showing. I thought the defensive line did a good job to get pressure. The linebackers did well in coverage, also swarmed to the ball during the run drills. A complete performance for them, but then Baker Mayfield stole the show, as he typically does. 3 plays to move the ball 60 yards. I looked at one of our reporter colleagues and I said, I don't think I've ever seen that drill run so smoothly in the 10 previous camps that I've covered. It was good to see them play well, move the ball down the field. The ball didn't hit the ground with the first team. They were able to get themselves in position too and did score. The second team offense, they got themselves in position late, but the defense stood tall. So overall, a pretty positive day, I think, for both sides.
You said it about the offense, the first team offense. First team defense, we talked about the linebackers and the defensive core. I want to highlight a specific defensive back, not just because he went to the same college as me, but TJ Carey had himself a day. Picked Baker Mayfield very early on in 11-on-11 work and broke up a few passes as well. Right now, he's the Browns' starting nickelback. They've been running a ton of nickel. That's pretty much exclusively what they've been running, right?
Yeah, TJ's been kind of like the Swiss Army knife back there in the secondary. He can play regular corner. He can play nickel corner. Hell, if you need him to play safety, he could probably do that too. Just a jack of all trades. He's the type of guy that you want to have on your team and you need to have in your secondary if you're going to have sustained success throughout the season, because cornerbacks get dinged up all the time. Safeties get dinged up all the time. Depth will be tested. We saw that a lot last year. TJ was pressed into a starting role and really filled in that role very admirably. And he's had a solid account of himself and his skill set over these first 3 days, especially today with that pick on a pass that was intended from Baker Mayfield to Odell Beckham Jr.
And speaking of cornerbacks and speaking of picks, we just heard from Greedy Williams moments ago, who had himself a day yesterday. He picked off Baker Mayfield in the end zone. He's a charismatic kid. He's pretty fun to listen to, isn't he? He just had a smile on his face the entire time. The second-round pick out of LSU, and all the LSU Tigers here in Berea, Maddie. I'll tell you, you got OBJ, Jarvis, and Greedy, that number 26. It's been fun to watch all those guys, but Greedy certainly, he's in an absolute battle right now with T. Mitch, Terrence Mitchell, for that second starting quarterback spot opposite Denzel Ward, and that's going to be fun to watch as camp rages on here over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That competition's going to heat up in the secondary. Greedy's off to a great start. Freddie kind of tempered expectations when he addressed the media yesterday, talking about how Greedy needs to learn what to do after he gets the interception, which either means return it, or if you're out of bounds, don't throw it into the stands and get the team a penalty. But that's all youthful exuberance, and I'd rather have to dial that back than have to coach it up. And I think everybody is in agreement on that point. What Greedy can do in that secondary is pretty special, and he's going to make that unit a better producing group of players as the season goes on and the more experience that he gets.
Imagine being a rookie and you're guarding Odell Beckham Jr. and you pick Baker Mayfield in the end zone. You know what? I'd probably toss the ball in the air too.
I think
too. That's all right. I don't think there's anything to read into there.
I would be a little excited too. Heck, I might be tempted to retire.
Exactly. Just hang it up.
If I was an undrafted free agent, I might let that be my salvo, my swan song. Let's just Let's just go with that. But Greedy, he had 2 picks yesterday, had some PBUs the first day and today. This is just one of many performances that we're going to look back on with him and say, wow, this kid is really something special.
Definitely. And kind of transitioning from defense, from the defensive backs to the receivers, want to highlight another tandem that I thought looked really good today, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too. Garrett Gilbert, that other quarterback from Lake Travis High School in Texas, and Blake Jackson, who's really, speaking of battles, it might not be the most important battle, but that battle for that final, that number 6 wide receiver position, Blake Jackson definitely in the thick of things, along with guys like Derek Willies, like Damon Sheehy Giuseppe, who had his day yesterday. But Jackson from Gilbert hauled in a couple of touchdown passes today, and he looked good. He's smaller. You know, he doesn't have that Dorian Baker build. He's you could probably call him undersized, but he's got wheels and did a really nice job running routes today. And him and Gilbert have some chemistry early on. Gilbert's looked pretty good.
Yeah, I was impressed with Gilbert today. He threw into some tight windows, and I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out, but it worked out great. He made some great completions down the field for scores, and looked like he's starting to settle in a little bit. Maybe putting the pads on and getting everybody a little bit more physical kind of helped him elevate his game. With Blake, I've been impressed with him since the first drill of training camp 2 days ago. I think he's got something there skill set wise that even if he doesn't make this team, he's gonna be on an NFL roster this year. Former Division III college quarterback turned wide receiver, excellent talent, very quick, just has a good burst and has solid hands too.
Yeah,
he's got really good hands for a guy who's still learning the position.
And you mentioned that if he's not going to be a good player on this team, he might be a good player on another team. I think that's a really good point. I feel that way about like 3 or 4 of these receivers, right?
Absolutely.
Like Dorian Baker from Cleveland Heights. I thought he's kind of popped. He's made some plays, and he's got that NFL type of body. Throw him in on red zone plays, and he can go up and get the ball. He just eats up space with that big body. Talked about Sheehy Giuseppe, who scored a couple of touchdowns yesterday. Jackson today. The thing though is Derek Willies. He's a proven player. I mean, people kind of forget like that game-winning field goal that Greg Joseph kicked against the Ravens was in part because Derek Willies came up clutch in overtime. Remember that game at First Energy Stadium, and had that huge reception from Baker Mayfield. So Willies is a guy, it's going to be hard to cut a player like him. And then obviously he was sidelined by that injury and kind of, faded into the abyss after that. But now he's back and now he's healthy. So all those guys I just mentioned on top of your big 4, your Beckham, Landry, Callaway, Damian Ratley, of course, but then Hollywood Higgins. So Ratley's going to be the number 5 there. He's out with a hamstring injury, but just so much depth in the receiver. That's the one position it seems like the Browns are the strongest in terms of depth.
And it's nice to see that because in past regimes, and I don't want to get too much into the past, receiver was kind of an afterthought to the point where we didn't draft any for a good couple of years there. Looking at this group now, with the trades for Landry and Beckham and the free agent signings and some of the draft picks they've made, it really has become a position of strength for this offense. And I don't know at any point in the last 5 years if you were able to say that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you mentioned not just drafting and trade, or not just trading rather, and signing, talking about Beckham and Landry respectively, but they really hit on the draft last year, taking Antonio Callaway in the 4th round.
Yeah.
As long as he stays out of trouble, which, knock on wood, he's doing an okay job of that, at least recently. And then Damian Ratley, guy that they took in the 6th round. So credit to John Dorsey. And from there, last thing I can think about, Maddie, in terms of another position of strength on offense, running back. They were a little short-handed today. Duke Johnson out with the hamstring injury. Yep. And I don't know if you saw the play yesterday. I was filming the play for Channel 3 Sports. During 11 on 11, you could tell he kind of came up a little limp, grabbing his hammy. Ended up, he didn't go to the trainer's room immediately. I actually think he finished practice, but they had him doing side work today alongside Kareem Hunt. But no big deal with Hunt. He's going to, Kitchen said a couple days ago that Hunt should probably be back any day now, and he's got to sit the first 8 games anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a major issue with Duke, but he's kind of been a hot button type of personality lately because of the trade request and hiring Drew Rosenhaus. Yeah. So I think it's worth mentioning that he did get nicked up a little bit alongside doing side work alongside, like I said, Hunt, and then Ratley, who also tweaked his hamstring, but nothing serious it appears so far through 3 days.
And that's good.
It's great,
because
yeah.
Getting through camp is healthy is very difficult to do. Not many teams are able to do it. You get some dings and dents here and there, but if you can keep them to the minor end of things, treat them with ice, elevation, rest, compression, the whole drill, you'll be in a good spot going forward. The thing with Duke is I don't envision them rushing him back. If he says he feels something, they're going to hold him out, because they're going to need him if he's on this roster, and also if they have visions of separating themselves from him. They want him as healthy as possible so they can get the best return.
That's a good point.
So I'd be interested to see how long Duke Johnson is actually going to be out of practice. Soft tissue injuries tend to creep up this time of year, and they tend to linger.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Kitchens talked about that yesterday. He was actually asked about Jarvis Landry specifically, asked if Landry's on a bit of a pitch count. Landry denied it, but Kitchens said, yeah, he's fine. He had that unspecified injury during OTAs and minicamp, didn't play at all, but he was still here, so give him credit for that. But he just said, hey, and he brought data to back this up. He said, we've done our research, and most injuries occur, and I think specifically soft tissue injuries, within the first 5 days of camp starting. So it's good to hear that clearly, that they're doing everything they can. They want to get these guys reps, but at the same time, you don't want anybody to get seriously hurt this time of year. And it's probably going to happen. It's probably going to happen on every single team.
Right.
Some sort of player that carries a significant amount of value one way or the other will get injured. But the Browns doing the best they can to make sure it's at least not one of their stars, and just trying to keep plug away here. At the same time, though, the irony there is all 3 days now they've gone over their scheduled practice time.
Yes, they have.
So I guess maybe the way to sum that up is the backups are getting a lot of work.
Yes, they are, and so are the starters. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that on the final point here. We talk about Nick Chubb and the camp that he's having. Good day catching the ball out of the backfield yesterday. A little bit of some struggles in teamwork today, but he's been running with the first and the fourth team offenses just to get some extra reps. And I think that's commendable for him, and hopefully it results in some good things down the road for him. Pat, what can we look forward to on the news tonight? What do you got cooking for the people?
Well, we got, you're going to see that minute and 30-second drill. I want to call it a 2-minute drill, but they put like 1:25 on the clock. But bottom line is, you said they went 60 yards, and they did it in 3 plays. You're going to see that at both 6 and 11. So good we've got to show it twice. And then, like I said, we heard from Greedy Williams, so you'll hear from Greedy tonight at 6, possibly 11 as well. You'll hear from Nick Chubb. And we're getting ready to hear from Freddie Kitchens in about 15 minutes or so. So we'll relay whatever message Freddie has to pass on to the media.
On the digital side of things, we'll have a recap of the first fully padded practice. We'll also have a feature on Greedy Williams and the success he's experienced early in camp. And WKYC.com caught up with former NXT champion and Cleveland native Johnny Gargano. We're going to have a video and a story up on WKYC.com later this afternoon. Johnny was gracious enough to grant us some time, and a lifelong Browns fan. He has some bold predictions for this year's team. And
Brian Sipe was here today.
Brian Sipe, Tim
Speaking
Couch.
of lifelong Browns and Browns fans, Tim Couch was here.
A lot of dignitaries out in Berea. A lot of people want to see this team.
Right.
And that's good.
It's going to continue. It's great.
There's a lot of guys on this team that are worth the price of admission. Pat, thank you very much for helping me break down this first fully padded practice here in Berea. For Pat Chiesa, I'm Matt Florjancic. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.